If you're trying to level up your beats, you've probably heard that it takes 10,000 repetitions. But instead of just cranking out beat after beat on autopilot, sometimes it is better to go back to the basics. In this video, I dive into music theory. I start with learning the fundamentals of fundamentals and end up being able to write full chord progressions and melodies. I take you through every step of the journey, the confusing moments, the struggles, and the satisfying epiphanies. I like that. By the end, you'll not only be able to see how much learning music theory helped me, but you also have a clear path to follow, hopefully to help you not make as many mistakes as I did. Quick disclaimer, this video is a streamlined compilation of my learning music theory series. Basically, I cut out a lot of the fluff just to give you guys the most efficient and uninterrupted way to watch the entire journey. All right, let's see how this all went down. All right, guys, so I made a list of some videos that I found on music theory and different things. Some of these you guys may have seen before, some maybe not. So the plan with these videos is I'm basically going to watch each of them and take notes on kind of what their structure is and how they go through different music theory concepts. I'm not trying to actually like learn the stuff though today. So I just basically want to have a plan of the things I need to learn and the order I need to learn them in so that we can start this journey correctly, hopefully. All right, so the first video is Learn Music Theory in Half an Hour by Andrew Huang. It's a pretty popular one, so you've probably actually seen it or at least heard about it if you've been looking into learning some music theory yourself. So we're gonna get watching on that 2x speed. Pencil, paper, I'm actually going to take notes, okay? I said this before in one video, and then I decided I didn't want to and cut it out, but this time I'm actually gonna take the notes, okay? All right. As this was the first video I watched, it did take me a little bit to kind of figure out the note taking. I had to decide what points seemed important to write down and not get too bogged down in all the details. Like I said before, I'm just trying to familiarize myself with the topics and get a good grasp of what I need to learn and how I might need to go about learning it. And I have a lot of content I want to sift through today, so if I want to survive, I really can't be taking too long on just one video. All right, I have completed my first watch of one of these videos and taking notes. I've got this page and half of this page, some basic notes, basically outlining the video and a couple of the, well, and all the topics that were mentioned in it. I'm just gonna record it with my hand, bro. I'm not trying to set up anything. Okay, we've got some different topics that I found. This is all like really not super great organized or anything like that yet. I'm gonna make it organized. I'm gonna make it nice and neat. But right now I was just gathering information while I watched the video at 2x speed. So topic 1, notes, like the 12 notes on the piano, all that stuff. Then we've got chords. Then we've got the number system of like scales and things. I need to learn all this stuff, so obviously I don't understand it fully right now. But then we got topic 4 was making inversions in your scales. We're trying to spice some stuff up. I know some stuff about that, not really though. And then the next topic was melodies. And then the last topic was rhythm. And then kind of transcribing. Basically, after you watch a video, he wants you to try to transcribe songs that you like. Anyways, that's what I found in this video. I need to now do that like 4 more times or something. Some of the videos are shorter, some of them are about the same length. I don't think there's anything too long. And then at the end, we're going to combine all the knowledge into a streamlined document with learn this, learn this, learn this, learn these key things in each category, and then you should be pretty knowledge. The second video I watched was Music Theory for Producers. This is all you need by Ethan Davis. This video was similar to the first one I watched, but it definitely had its own teaching style and own twist on music theory. It went over notes, scales, chords, chord progressions, spicing up your chords, and finally breaking the conventional rules. The third video I watched was the Music Production Roadmap for Beginners by Black Ghost Audio. This video was a little different than the other ones, as it was more about a roadmap for learning producing in general, but I went ahead and just skipped to the part about music theory and took note of all the topics he put in his outline. outline. Now, the fourth video I watched was how I'd learn music theory if I had to start over by 12 tone. This video had a lot of interesting advice on how to go about the process of learning music theory, but it didn't speak as much on what actually to learn. I think this video will come in handy to revisit a little further down the line once I get a better grasp on all the fundamentals from the other videos. All right, guys, so for some reason, the whole rest of the recording, my mic just stopped working. I'm not really sure why, and hopefully it's actually recording right now. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I didn't realize it while I was recording, and I recorded like a bunch of stuff, but it's okay. We're just gonna redo it right now, and I still have all like the B-roll and stuff that I recorded on that day, so it's pretty much fine. I just got to re-say some stuff. Okay, so after I finished watching all the videos and taking notes, I organized all the lists of topics I had gathered from my notes and put them into a Google Doc. And I tried to organize this doc as best as I could, as I am going to be trying to use this as my guide for the rest of the series, or at least as a good starting point. Okay, so here is the thing I came up with. I basically sorted it into two sections: getting a grasp of the basic concepts and learning more advanced theory. So the first section has these first three videos, this one, and this one, and then I just made it the main topics I took note of, and I made sure I kept them in their same order that they were presented in the video. That way I kind of have an idea, looking at this, what the general consensus of like, you should learn this first, then this, according to these different people. So like, you know, like notes into chords, notes, scales, and chords. You know, it's all pretty similar. The third one is definitely a little bit different, but it's not that different. Like it has like the circle fifths, which is something that's not mentioned in the other ones. But yeah, and then this learning more advanced theory has this final video, which I already talked about. It just was a kind of a little bit different and wasn't so much about the fundamentals. So I thought I'd put it in a separate section and pretty much just put this off to the side for now and think about it later. Now, the final thing I did, because I know this is three different lists, so it's not really one consolidated thing, was I threw it into ChatGPT, which I don't really use that much. So I don't know if I really entered it the best. Here, let me actually pull it up. But I said some garbled English. I didn't try to make it make sense. Don't worry about this. Basically, I said, here's these three lists, which I formatted really poorly because I have no idea why I couldn't just like press enter, and it was being really annoying. I don't know. Okay. Like I said, I don't use this that often. So I put them in and basically just said, make one list based off of these three lists. It spit out an answer. I don't know if it was really affected that much by what I put in it. I think it might have just put whatever it knows about music theory already. But it gave me this list that I'm also going to be referencing. And I think it is actually kind of a better streamline than what I was looking at. But basically it goes, step one is the fundamentals of music. It gives me the notes, intervals, note values, rhythm. So these are all things that we saw across this. So we saw notes, but then we saw notes values there, and then it put rhythm actually at the beginning, so that was interesting. I'm not sure. And then scales and keys, so that was a general thing we saw that we went into. Scales and keys and stuff were included in like the chord stuff, so it kind of follows that, but then also sticks some circle fifths there, which was at the end of this. So I don't know what I'm gonna follow, but I'll figure it out. I will take all this stuff into consideration. I just wanted to present that all to you guys right now so you know where I'm at after this day of pretty much just like resource gathering and knowledge collecting. All right, guys, today's episode 1 of learning music theory. Last episode, episode 0, I went ahead and collected a bunch of notes on different music theory tutorials, kind of finding what topics were in them and all that. So today we're going to use some of that information we gathered to guide me in my first day of learning some music theory. And these are the topics we're going to be learning. So the first one will be notes, then intervals, and then note values. And then there's a bonus that we'll get to at the end that will tie into next week's learning. And to help me learn all this today, I actually have a new piece of equipment sitting here at my desk. So yeah, I got a keyboard because I do want to try to learn how to play it, and I think it will help me understand the music theory concepts better. And then yeah, I want to actually get into being able to play the keyboard, and it also has drum pads that I want to maybe learn how to play in the future as well. So without further ado, it's time to start learning some of this stuff. First thing we got to learn is the notes of the piano. So I'm gonna just go back to these videos where they have notes as their first topic. I'll watch both of them. And then as I go back and learn these topics again, I'm gonna go and add to the notes I took on those videos initially so that I can have like, you know, more in-depth notes. Okay, so the first video we're gonna look back at is the Learn Music Theory in Half an Hour by Andrew Huang. And yeah, we just need to learn the notes of the piano. So let's see what he has to say about it. As I said before, I watched these tutorials in episode 0. However, I only did so then to take some very basic notes on what kinds of topics were included in them. So I went ahead and rewatched this tutorial and added a few extra details to my notes. And then afterwards, I went ahead and watched the second tutorial just to reinforce the concepts from the first one and see if it had any different information. It was in fact much the same information, but I mean, how different can you really teach the names of just the notes on the piano? All right, the notes of the piano, this is super simple. So let's review. If I stumble anywhere, I'm gonna look back at my notes or watch back the videos, but I'm pretty sure I know the notes of the piano. So let's test that and let me talk y'all through them. So I know this of course is C. It's the one right by the 2 or whatever. So this should be A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then the black notes, so it should be A, B flat, B, C, D flat, B, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G, A flat. So let me look at this. So yeah, that should be right. I think I said it all right. Okay. So in the Ethan Davis video, he said that C, D, E, F. This is going to be called F sharp, while the other ones are going to be flats of the notes in front of them for the most part in common notation or something. Because it could be considered a G flat because it's behind the G, but oftentimes it's referred to as an F sharp. But all of these can also be referred to as the sharp of the one before them or the flat of the one after them. Okay, the notes is not a super complex idea to get down, so I think I'm good there. Bam. So now I need to learn the next thing, which is intervals. What does that mean? Oh, okay. I think I actually already know this from what the video said. I know that in between, like from, how do you describe it? It's like one note over is a half step. And then if you go 2, that's a whole step. And that's a semitone and a whole tone, I think. And the other thing is the octave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the 12th note. Okay, this stuff is pretty basic. So now I just need to know whatever this is with note value. I need to look up this as well. I'm not really sure if this is mentioned in the videos. It looks like it has to do with like the writing of music and stuff that I know nothing about. It was mentioned in not one of the 2 videos I just watched, but this one, where he mentions all the topics, but he doesn't explain them. He says you need to go learn them. So I don't know if I need to learn them right now because I think these are just notations. I would probably need to learn how to read music eventually. I'm not gonna do it right now. I think that's kind of like a whole nother topic. Right now, it feels like a good time to remind you guys that I have next to no experience with this stuff. So if I'm making poor learning decisions or stupid mistakes, please don't assume that I know what I'm doing because I don't. Okay, but now that we got through all of our regular objectives for today, it's time for the bonus one. The bonus one is major and minor scales. So this is the kind of the thing they get into next in the video. So I'm going to check it out and see what I can figure out. All right, to start learning scales, I went back to the same 2 tutorials. And like before, I took some extra notes from those videos to strengthen my existing ones. But not like before, I quickly found that the topic of scales was not one quite as easy as just simply learning the notes of the piano.
Now, it is essential that you commit these to memory because they're going to be the foundation for all the chords and melodies in your songwriting and production that we're going to learn later on in the course.
All right, guys, this is definitely something much more complex. But essentially, the major and minor scales can be found on the piano, right? By having a note and then doing a series of whole and half steps to determine which notes fall within the key scale thing. So I'm gonna practice kind of finding which notes are included in the major scale, and then I'll switch and try to do the minor scale. So the formula, there's like a formula of whole, in half steps, like a sequence. For a major, you start, I'm looking at my notes. You start on the note, and you go over a whole step, a whole step, a half step, a whole step, a whole step, and a whole step. So that's the C major scale, which is the easiest one. I actually already knew the C major scale because it's so easy to know. It's just all the white keys. But then if you switch to try to find like the B major, then you got to remember that thing. So it's whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. So let me see if I can do it. Whole, whole. So whole, half, whole, whole, whole. So this is the tricky part because I can find which notes are in there, but now do I remember any of them? No. But over time, I need to commit them to memory where I can just look at the piano. I think I need to. I'm pretty sure people can do this. Where you just look at the piano and you're like, oh yeah, these are the notes in the thing. Yeah, I need to practice with these notes and finding the scales. Let's do that a few times, and then I have to do it throughout the next week before I film the next episode. I'm filming these weekly, and then hopefully I know them better. I probably won't have all of them memorized. That's kind of ridiculous, but I know some things better, and then we can start getting into the next topics. But anyways, okay, so if I'm going on B, what I was just doing, it's whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. Whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. Yeah, okay. B, whole step, to, oh yeah, I need to name the notes as well. I have so much stuff I have to remember. Oh my God. B, to, wait, what? This is not B. What am I saying? This is not B. This is D. So if I want to do B major, which I said initially, and then I started clicking this, I don't know. Okay. Whole. Whole. Half. How many keys is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. This is the B major key, according to me. So it could be wrong. It only took me 3 minutes to figure that out. I have to learn a key for each of the 12 notes in major and minor. So that's 24 of these sets of 7 notes I need to have memorized. I'm going to work on that throughout the next week. Let's try a minor, and then we're going to call it for the video. It would be very boring if I tried to figure this out for hours on camera. So the formula for the minor is root note. Let's start back on C. Root. Wait, am I recording up here? Heck no, bro. I wasn't recording. All right, let's try to find a minor scale. Start on the root note. We're going to start with C. And we got to go whole, half, whole, whole, half. Wait, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole. That's a better way to say it. Whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole. So start on C. Whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole. So it should be it shouldn't be this hard, bro. What the heck is wrong with my brain? Okay. I had to memorize 24 of these, so that's kind of insane. But with that said, I think we can cross off the bonus objective. I know the major scale goes whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. And the minor scale goes whole, half, whole, half, whole. And that's really all I need to know to brutally and very slowly get through figuring out a scale. I'm going to try my best to commit some of these to memory. We will see what happens by next week. In episode 1 of Learning Music Theory, I learned all about notes and scales. So today I'm going to be learning about how to use that knowledge to form chords. The hope is by the end of this video, I'll be able to effectively create and name chords in various different scales, because then next episode, I'm going to be trying to actually make proper chord progressions. So hopefully I can get the basics of chords down in today's video. All right, to start the day, I went ahead and rewatched the sections of the 2 videos I'm mainly following for this, which would be the one by Andrew Huang and the one by Ethan Davis. Pretty much, I took a good amount of notes today. I actually took about a page and a half of pretty dense notes, but essentially the objectives for today are going to be to first review the scales and notes and stuff, what I learned last episode, then learn triad chords, and then learn about major and minor chords, and then complete this practice like a little assignment thing in the video from Andrew Huang. So that practice seemed like it could be a challenge, so hopefully I can get that done, because I would really like to start learning some cool stuff and like being able to do chord progressions in the next video. So I really got to get this stuff down today. Let's see what I can do. All right, is that recording? I think it is. Hopefully we don't want to have what happened last week happen again. Okay, if we review what we learned last week, we first learned the notes. So that would go A, B flat B, C, D flat D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G. So those are all the notes, and we know that like these can be flats or sharps. This was A, B flat, or it could be A sharp. Okay, so that wasn't too hard to learn. And then after that, we learned major and minor scales, like how to find them. So the first one was the major scales, which goes whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. Whole and half refer to like the steps in between. So if we start on C and we want to find C major, we're going to go whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. So it's all the white keys. That's super easy to find. And then if we wanted to find the minor of that, we know it's whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole. So whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole. So like that. I did say that I wanted to learn a bunch of the scales and stuff before the next episode. Did I do that? Not quite. But I did find this like practice on the C major scale that's going to help me, I think, learn it a bit better. Basically, I know, or I'm thinking the strategy is to learn jazz piano techniques because I watched this one video. I'll put it on the screen and link it in the description. So based off of that, I found this tutorial about how to learn scales. I'll also put on the screen and link in the description. That taught me this little drill. So I'll show you it right now. Basically, you play different chords or like couplets or something like that in your one hand, and then the other hand does the scale. So this hand's going okay, so basically it goes like this. You start okay, it's something like that. I'm still not very good at it. You're supposed to be able to play like really fast. I also think I have like the rhythm a bit wrong. I don't know, but that's one thing I've been trying to do to practice my scales. And now with that review out of the way, it's time to start learning some new stuff. All right, so the next thing on the list is to learn triad chords. If I go back to my notes here, pretty much a triad is formed from a root note and then a third and a fifth. So I need to play the root, the third, and the fifth of the scale of C major. So this would be the root. Then I would skip the second and go to the third, and then the fifth. So 1, 3, and 5 would be my triad for C major, starting at the root of C. Bear with me, I am like slightly ill, I'm not really sure. And then you can just shift it over, start on any root note that you want. That's my understanding. You just boom. This is all in C major. Something like that, okay? But the important thing to know is like the numbering, because while this is the third, this is the first, fifth, and fifth. Wait, first, third, and fifth. I think that's what I said. Of the scale, this is still the third and fifth in this chord according to this root. Like if I change the root now to the second, to this D, this is the third and this is the fifth of that chord, even though this F here is really the fourth of the scale, and this A is the, oh, this is the exact example that was in the video. This A is the sixth of the scale. So basically, I need to remember that the numbering kind of matters for what your context is. And I feel like a lot of this stuff is simple to understand. It's just hard to like find the triads really quickly and all the scales and stuff. And yeah, it's hard to name all this or like play out all the scales really quickly. It's hard to get this stuff down so it's like fluent or whatever. It's gonna take like a lot of practice, but it's easy to understand. Anyways, I know that I understand the triads, or I think I do. Let me know in the comments if I don't. So that's gonna be crossed off. And now I just gotta learn the major and minor chords. So if I look back at my notes, basically the way major and minor works, if we're still thinking about like triads, it's just kind of like the number of notes in between the first and the third and the third and the fifth. So if you have 4 notes in between the first and the third, and then 3 in between the third and the fifth, then that's a major chord. And that is the case here, I'm pretty sure. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3. So this is a major chord. Then this is gonna be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, what? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one's a minor. Then the next one, starting on the third, is also a minor. Then this one is a major. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm actually getting better at recognizing these patterns. And then this one is also a major. And you can also just tell by the sound. This one's a minor. So on the 7th of the C major scale, when you create a triad there, it creates something that has a 3 and a 3. And that is a diminished chord. And basically in the video, he just said it's not used too often. It's just like a more niche sound because it doesn't really like sound right. Based off what the video was talking about, I can cross off major and minor chords. I think I got that down. So we're going to cross that off. And now we have to do the hardest part, which is going to be the practice in the Andrew Huang video. And I'm not going to lie, today's learning primarily came from the Andrew Huang video. He went a lot more in depth on the chords in like the major and minor stuff than Ethan Davis, or there just wasn't as much new. I watched this one first, so there wasn't as much like other stuff in the Ethan Davis video. So I'm pretty much, you just need to watch the Andrew Huang video, not the Ethan Davis one, to learn about chords. There's not really a ton extra in the other one. Okay, so this practice, basically what it says is practice making triads out of the 1st through 6th degrees of a major scale, and identify each chord. What is the letter name of the root note, and is it major or minor? So basically I need to be able to play a chord and say, this is the 6th chord and it's minor. And then I need to do this with at least 5 different major scales. Pretty much go through the entirety of 5 scales, all the triads that are in them, except for the 7th one. I'm assuming that's because maybe the 7th one is always diminished. We'll find that out. Okay, this is actually a good bit difficult because I don't know my scales very well. I can't find them very well. I'm not very good at it. So it's kind of hard to do the practice where I have to go on different major scales. Like I showed earlier that I was able to go through the C major and name if they're a major or minor chord. That was not too hard, but to place my fingers on the 3rd and the 5th of like scales I don't know, it's hard to see it all and like actually be able to do it. But I'm gonna keep practicing for a little bit, naming them out loud and stuff. So like I'm starting on the A, and then it's whole, whole, half, whole, whole, whole. So whole, whole, half. I'm just trying to find all the notes. So that was actually the B I started on, like a freaking moron. I bet if I wrote it down, it might help, and I could start committing it to memory. I did that earlier when I had to remember the chords for that one drill I did, little couplet chords. So maybe it'll help to write it down. If I find A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. Oh, writing it down maybe does help. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, kind of have it. So then if I try to make one, so A, and then it would have to be, I skip the B and I go to this, A, C sharp, and to E, that would be a major. And then I'm gonna start on the B. And then I need to skip one and go to the D, and then go to E. Nope. So that can't be right. Wait. Oh, and go to the F. And that would be a minor. A, and go to the B. That's another major. The major fifth. Now we're on the last one, the sixth, and that would be starting on the F sharp. Skip the G sharp, go to the A, skip the B, and go to the C sharp. And that would be a minor. Then the next one's gonna be diminished. Okay, that's not terrible, but I still have to look at this list I wrote down of what's in the scale, but that's all right. So that's gonna be A major. I wrote B major now. B. This is helping me recognize the notes quicker too. Like, you know, just sometimes it just takes some practice. Like actually sitting down, going really slow, then you can actually get it. So I'm gonna practice those two more because I've done 3 so far, C, or A, B, and C. I'm gonna try D and E off camera because my GoPro's dead. I can't get the overhead shot or any of the other shots. So I'm just gonna do that. And I mean, I'm sure it's kind of boring to watch anyways. And then I'll do my final test and see how fast I can get it. What on earth just happened? Was that in the recording? What were those balloons? Wait, what hand gesture did I do to make a balloon? Or any of the other shots. So I'm just gonna do that. And I mean, I'm sure it's kind of boring to watch anyways. And then I'll do my final test and see how fast What? Why are there balloons appearing? I need to figure out how to delete that because if I ever put up 2 fingers, I do not want balloons appearing. What? All right, guys, here is where I've gotten with this. So I put in, I don't know, more practice than I was hoping to have to do today, but I got to a point where I think I'm understanding stuff a little bit better. Pretty much what helped me get there was writing down the notes in a scale so I can kind of recognize the patterns a little bit better and form the chords. So I do know like the A major now a little bit better. There's my A major scale. I've kind of got that down after writing it down and then doing it a few times and looking at the writing. And I feel like it's just helping me learn it a little bit better. So I'm just going to go through A major. I also did B, D, and E. And then of course I did C before. It's very easy doing C. Pretty much we'll go through this really fast. Well, not really fast. As fast as I can. Okay. So A, skip 1 to C. So boom, skip D, go to E. And that would be a major on the first. So that's what the practice, you know, naming it. And then if we go to the second, we start on B, we skip C, we go to D, and we skip E and go to F sharp. And that would be a minor because there's 3 there. And then we just go to C sharp, skip D, go to E, skip, or you can just also count 4. If you know this was only 3, then you know this one has to be 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then boom. And that was right because here we're on E, we skipped F sharp and went to G sharp. So there's different patterns you can kind of pick up, and that's what I've been doing very slowly, but I think I've been getting it. So now we're on D, and then this is the 4th, E, F, that's 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and that's a major for the 4th. Then we're on E, skip this one, go here. That's also 4, that's a major, so 1, 2, 3. And then we can go to F sharp, skip G, go to A again. And this is going to be a minor, so 1, 2, 3, 4. and that's F, so that's the 6th, and then that's where we stop because the next one's diminished. So that's pretty cool. Another thing, I scrolled a little bit further in the video than I had watched before because I remembered seeing this from the before time I watched it. And just knowing that the first 6 triads of the major scale go major, minor, minor, major, major, minor. If you remember that, it's also easy to find these because if you just know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to go on the 3rd one on C sharp. Now I know this is the 3rd one. I know it goes major, minor, minor. So this one has to be minor. So I go 1, 2, 3, and then I just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then boom, I have a chord. So knowing that is a good shortcut because now I don't have to think, oh, skip one in the scale, go to this one. I just have to know which one I'm starting on. So make sure it's in the scale and then just count those over. But I think that was really good progress for today. Kind of having somewhat of an epiphany on different learning methods, like writing down the different notes and then also just being able to count 4s and 3 away from notes. Based off that, all that practice I just did, I think I was definitely able to complete this practice. It took me a while, but I did it. And so that was all the objectives completed for episode 2. In episode 2 of my Learning Music Theory series, I learned all about making chords. So today I'm going to be learning how to use those chords to make chord progressions. All right, so today we got just a few objectives here. We're gonna start by reviewing how to form chords. So it should be super simple, just little triads. Then I'm gonna learn the basics of chord progressions. Then I'm gonna learn a little bit how you can spice up the chords and then how we can break the rules. And in order to learn all of this, we're going based off of the same 2 tutorials as I've been doing before. Learn Music Theory in Half an Hour by Andrew Huang and Music Theory for Producers, This Is All You Need by Ethan Davis. These 2 videos have been pretty much guiding my whole thing. And yeah, I'm going to be going back to these 2 videos to get learning. To form triad chords, we gotta know like what scale we're in or whatever. So if we're just gonna review really quickly how these are formed, we're gonna start with C major. It's the simplest scale. It just goes right, all the white keys. By this point, that's pretty basic knowledge. So to form a triad, we just got to go find a root note, any note in the scale, and then go skip 1, skip 1. So it's the root note, the 3rd, and the 5th. And there's a triad. And then we can move this to any note. So we just go boom. These are a bunch of triads, and then the naming of them is important. You got to know how to name each note in the triad, and you got to name the triad as a whole. So this would be the root note of C, and it's a major chord, and it's the 1st of the scale. Then now we're on the 2nd, and this one is a minor chord, and it has the root note of D. This is going to be E, and it is a minor chord, and you guys get the point. We learned all about this last episode, and I think we're in a pretty good spot knowing how to do this. All right, that's our little review out of the way. So now we need to learn how to actually make chord progressions.
So these scale degrees, the numbers that we've been using, are really handy because they help us understand how notes and chords function within a key, and they're also used as a shorthand for discussing chord progressions. They help us understand how chords relate to each other relatively rather than absolutely.
So chord progressions are essentially super simple. If we know how to number all the chords within the scale, then we can form any chord progression we want. It could be like 4, 3, 2, 1, and it would just mean that you had to go on the 4th, the 3rd, the 2nd, and the 1st. And that would be your chord progression. It's basically just understanding that in any scale, the 1 and the 2 are gonna have a similar relationship, even though they are like different. They're using different notes and they're using different root notes. So you can transfer them between the scales and have a similar emotional tone to your chord progression. Something like that. So I am going to try to find some sort of list or some sort of chord progressions to practice here, just see what they sound like and kind of store them in my brain. All right, so I found this, you know, the AI overview from Google, but it had just a couple chord progressions I'm going to look at. First, we got the 1, 4, 5, and we're just going to do this all in C major because it's super simple. So 1, 4, 5. So that sounds interesting. Okay, nice. The 1, 5, 6, 4. And one thing to note is that when you see them lowercase, it means they are a minor chord, and when you see them uppercase, it means they are a major chord. That's just something to know. So the 1, 5, 6, 4. Let's try it. Again. Other notable progressions: 1, 6, 2, 5. 1, 6, 2, 5. Let's try it again. Okay, 2, 5, 1. Okay, so that's something I can definitely do more research on, definitely do more experimenting, practice, whatever. Something that has a lot of depth and is interesting, but I understand the basics of it. I understand how this is working. So chord progressions, I'm gonna say we are good to go. Cross that off. We learned how chord progressions work, how to make them, how to write them, how to interpret them. I think we're good there. All right, so now we're gonna move on to spicing up chords, learning about how to spice up chords. And I think most of the knowledge about this is gonna be found in the Ethan Davis video, a little bit in the Andrew Huang video, but it's not a whole lot. It is mostly in the Andrew Huang video just about inversions, but in the Ethan Davis video, I think he has a couple extra little things.
With our triads, we've covered the really important chord fundamentals, but I also want to talk about inversions. So that's when you change the position of one or more notes in the chord so that the root is no longer the lowest.
All right, so the first thing we're gonna be doing with our chord progressions is adding some inversions. It's not super complicated of a topic, and I already kind of know about this. I learned about it earlier on in my beat making journey. I think I probably learned it in the first 7 days in that series. But it's basically just shifting around the notes in your chord progression. It changes the tone so that they fit better together. I'm doing this in FL Studio because my piano playing skills are lacking. So we've got the first here, and then if we go, what chord progression do we want to do? Let's do the 1, 5, 6, 4. 1, 5, 6, 4. Okay. So 1. Let me make this really quick. Okay, so I think I got those 1, 5, 6, 4 here. Let me make sure. We can see that the notes are there's a large range from C all the way to E. So I'll shift this down an octave, and I'll shift this E down an octave. So these are inversions. I'm inverting the chord. It's still the same chord, but shifting some of the notes up and down an octave to have all the notes be closer together. Like as a whole, now the range is only from one C to the next C. So it's all fitting within one octave now. Before it was going from this C all the way to the E of the next octave. So now let's hear it. We can probably even get it closer like this. If we shift these down, what does it sound like? Yeah, like that. Okay, that's inversions. They're really simple, and they're a useful tool to change up your chords and kind of make them fit together a little bit better. So now back to the Ethan Davis video.
Now that we know the basics, it's time to spice things up. How do we take a classic C major chord and make it a little fancier?
Okay, there's a crap ton that he just showed. And did I take notes? Not this time. I don't know. It wasn't like anything to take notes on. I don't feel like it's mostly about all sorts of different options you can do to spice up your chords. And I pretty much remember all of them. One thing he said was you can add the 7th to a chord. So you've got the first, the third, and the fifth, and now you can just add the seventh in there. Let me just do it on the piano. So there's something called a dominant seventh he was talking about. So you just play this, and instead of this normal seventh note, you go a half step down, just here. Sounded pretty cool. He said it's normally used as a transition, and he gave an example, sounded like this. Something like that, I think. I didn't look at it that well, so if I messed it up, I messed it up. I don't know. I didn't take notes. Okay, so another thing that he said to spice up your chords is with almost any chord, you can add the second of the scale in. So, or of the, no, I think of the chord. You can just add it in. It gives a different feel. It's just something to play with. It's not like always add the second in to spice your chord up. No, it's just something to play with. So that's the example of what those sound like. What else did he say? There was one big thing at the end. Oh, yes. He said that the 1 and the 5 go pretty nicely with almost any chord. Okay, we have a 1, 5, 6, 4 progression down here, but on the top, we're just playing the 1 and the 5 the whole time, and I think it should sound good according to him. So yeah, you can pretty much have the 1 and the 5 in any chord. I think he also, so he showed it playing above, but he also showed it just playing within. So like you just shift these down fully into the mix. Where would they fit? I guess down here. So now I have these chords like all packed together, and wherever they overlap, and wherever they don't, we're adding in the 1 and the 5. So we're making sure the 1 and the 5 is always in our chords. It also sounds pretty good. There's so many other things you could probably do to spice up your chords, but those are just some ideas to play with. All right, nice. That was spicing up chords. That was all that Ethan Davis had to say about it. That was all that Andrew Huang had to say about it. So now that I feel that I understand it, I think we can go ahead and cross that off the learning objectives. Boom. Okay. We're done learning about spicing up chords. Now I'm going to go back to just the Ethan Davis video and look at his section called Breaking the Rules. I feel like it's probably going to be similar to the last one, but with some other sprinkles of knowledge, just similar vibe. All right, let's see what that's all about.
That's just a little food for thought, but now let's get into the last section of music theory, which is breaking the rules.
All right, so he went over a lot of different things. The thing that stood out the most to me, two things that he kept kind of repeating, were that you can create some different flavors of chords in these two different ways. So one is an augmented chord, where you basically just take the fifth and move it up a half step. So this is their original. This is augmented. Yeah, it's kind of another transition type sound. It sounds similar to the, kind of similar to the seventh one, where you kind of have that going down a half step. Okay, another thing that was interesting was changing the third back down, shifting it down or up, basically to change if it's a major or minor. When it's in this scale, this is supposed to be a major chord, but now I'm going to change it to be a minor one. And that's a note that's out of the scale, but it could sound nice in some progressions or whatever. It's breaking the rules, but if you do it tastefully, it sounds nice. And it's something definitely to research, to dive into, to experiment with, kind of when breaking the rules sounds nice and in what ways. It's just the chord progressions. There's so much stuff you can get into this, go really deep dive. And obviously I'm not gonna do that today, but it's some interesting stuff to think about. So with my understanding of how you could break the rules, maybe not my in-depth understanding of everything, I'm gonna say I can go ahead and cross off learn about breaking the rules. And with that, we completed all of today's objectives. I forgot to add my bonus objective that I was going to add, which was to actually put this to use and make a chord progression. So let's just see what we can cook up. Something simple. I'm not gonna go too crazy. We'll do something in C major and just see. Let me turn off this scale thing so I can put them on any note, break the rules maybe a little bit. I don't know. We'll just figure something out, make my own chord progression just to, give it some good practice. Okay, I got something of a chord progression. It just goes from the 1 to the 4 to the 1 to the 4. I don't know. But at least I have an augmented C major, augmented, something like that. I think that's what it's called. Then I have an F that is shifted to being minor instead of major. And I did invert the F chords. And then I have one like just normal over here. I don't know. It's nothing spectacular, but it was my go at making my own chord progression. So yeah, I used some of the things I learned today to make that. It's all right, nothing worth saving, but very cool. All right, well. All right, we can go ahead and cross that off. Last episode of the Learning Music Theory series, I learned all about making chord progressions. And today I'm going to be learning about how to add melodies on top of those. And I'm also going to be learning a little bit about rhythm. All right, so right here we have the episode 4 objectives. We're going to start by reviewing chord progressions, then we're going to learn about melodies, and then we're going to learn about rhythm. Okay. Okay, to quickly review chords, it's pretty much just be able to read the chord progression, be able to know which number applies to which chord in the scale, and then figure out what kind of chord progressions you like. Okay, so for example, if you're going to play a chord progression that goes 1, 4, 5, 1, it's going to look like this. I started with the 1, then I moved to the 4, and then the 5, and then back to the 1. And then you can do that in any scale. You just got to make the proper chords in that scale. If you want to see all that in depth, obviously go back and check out the last episode. Okay, quick review out of the way. Now we got to learn about melodies. So to do that, we are going to go back to the Andrew Huang music theory video. And I've also been using this video a lot throughout the series, but last video we did actually finish the entire video. I've learned all the topics in it. So we're just going to go to the Andrew Huang video, and we should actually get through the entirety of this video today as well. So that's pretty exciting.
The next step is to look at melodies, which are single sequences of notes played with the chords, usually above them. This is usually the thing that you would sing along to in a song, but even in instrumental music, there's usually some kind of lead melodic part that's the most interesting and the thing that's the most memorable for people.
All right, so after taking a few notes on what Andrew Huang said in his video, I've got some ideas of what to kind of play with. And then also, of course, there's the practice that he always has. So I'm going to go ahead and try this out. Basically, I just gotta pick a key, create a chord progression. I'll set that up in FL Studio in my DAW, and then I'll just experiment with playing some melodies over this, try to cook something up, you know? Okay, so let's cook up a little chord progression here. Let's start with a 1, 7, 6 here. Okay, change up the BPM because why not? And then let's try to, change up the chord progression a little bit so it's not so on time. Okay, I have something cooking. It's something. This is the chord progression. Some transitioning, goes to the 7th and then it goes down, to make that like dominant 7th chord. I think it's what it's called. Do not learn your music theory terminology directly from me, okay? Okay. I think it's called the dominant 7th. I don't actually remember that's perfect. Like that is true. Now we got to cook up a melody on top of it. And I think I'm going to try playing the notes out on the piano a little bit. Kind of get like the rhythm, something like that. I don't know, it feels more free on the piano. And I'll try some of the different things that he mentioned, like using the pentatonic major scale, and then being mindful of playing different notes that are in the chords that are playing, and then also out of the chords that are playing. Is there such thing as a minor pentatonic scale? Okay, if I understand the minor pentatonic scale correctly, it's a little bit more complicated than the major one, but I think I'm gonna try it out because I normally am working in minor with like the dark trap beats, whatever I'm working on. So I think it might be useful to know this. If I look at the C major scale that I would use the first, the minor third, which I believe would go down one, I hope. And then it would be the fourth, the fifth, and then the minor seventh. Let's, I guess, go up an octave because we want to be playing above the other notes. Well, let's just keep playing with it and see if I can figure something out. Oh yeah, I should probably be playing the chords in the background while I do this. Okay, I have some ideas. I'm not really sure. Let's try to maybe play with some clicking in. Oh, actually, let's strum the chords just a bit. Okay. Do 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 do. I like that. I like that. I like that. So let's try recording it in. So it's gonna be something like that. Sometimes I'm not too good at being able to copy down exactly what I hear. So I mean, good thing I can play it. And then I'm gonna try to learn some about rhythm today. Maybe I can start learning to be able to like count it out. And holy crap, I hit those keys hard. It definitely took quite a good amount of time. No, but I think I made something that's not terrible. I used the minor pentatonic scale that I learned or whatever. And yeah, I used notes that were in the chords and not in the chords. And I think I made it kind of flow. But I definitely think if I was going to use this for an actual beat, it would need to be extended to a whole 8-bar and some more stuff would need to be added. But I think this was a pretty good little trial with the pentatonic scale and adding melodies on top of chords. So let's just play it. With that out of the way, I think we can go ahead and cross off learning about melodies. All right, so the next thing I gotta learn about is rhythm. And this I'm like a little worried about because like, you know, I've been making melodies obviously because I've been making beats. So it's not like super crazy, but rhythm, I don't know. It's not like a super hard concept, but it's just kind of something a little tricky, I feel like. But let's watch what Andrew Huang has to say about it, and then let's get into it. Also, this is the last section of the video. So we're basically done with like this beginner learning music theory phase right now. Okay, we're pretty much there.
The last component of theory fundamentals is rhythm and how to count it. How do you tell when things are played, whether that's chords or melodies or drum beats? That's based on the musical counting system.
I took some notes about rhythm, and I pretty much know this stuff. It's just like about counting, which I've learned before, like the 1E and a 2E and a 3E and whatever, okay? The part that I struggle with, I guess maybe I should explain this. I'll just show you his little diagram really quick. I'm talking about this thing. So this is the bar. These are the beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can count them, and then you just subdivide it. If you want to get all, you can go all the way down to 16th notes, or you can keep going forever. But the thing I was saying was the 16th note subdivision: 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. It's how you count like beats, or I don't know. It's how you count rhythm. I don't know. But the problem I have is being able to count like this. So I'll just show you what he's doing.
Let's say we had a beat idea that was like, we could jot that down into this number system. Well, I know that the snare is on the end of 1 and the 4.
I don't know. Like, how am I supposed to make that and count at the same time? I need to maybe take some time practicing right now. I might like try to put together a drum pattern in FL and then like figure out where the 1E and a 2E, all those things fall. Let's just get a kick and a snare and maybe some hats. So another 1 here, the 2 is here, the 3, the 4, and we can also see them up here. So I guess the 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and okay, so that's already 16th. So this would be the 1E and 2E and 3. Okay, I just never looked closely at this, you know, so it was more daunting than I thought. So okay, let me make my normal kick pattern. Okay, so now where do those things fall? This is the 1E and 2E and a 3. Okay, yeah, I knew the snare is on the 3 and the 7, and then the kick is on the 1, the 2, and wait. This is how I'm gonna look at it. The first one right here is the number, right? That's the 1. You got these 3 are the subdivisions, E and 2E and so we know this is an and 3E and 4E. Right now I'm just trying to make connections that make sense in my brain. If you're gonna try to do this yourself, you're gonna have to make stuff that makes sense in your brain, because I don't know if this makes sense to anyone else. Okay, let me try to count with it. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2. Did I get that? I don't think I. 1E. Let me slow the BPM down. That might help. And turn on the metronome. That might help too. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E. Let's speed it up a little bit. 90. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 2. Wow. Turn it back down. We were not ready to go up in the BPM. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3. Oh, maybe I just need to count 1 and 2 and, because I'm not even playing anything in the 16th right now. I'll probably simplify for me. So let me just count it in 8s. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay. All right, let me get the second half now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay. Yes, I know I sound super stupid. Okay. Anyways, I think I've got. No, I was about to say I think I've got this down. No, I think I've got a lot of work to do to get this down. I think I know how to do it though. Like I know how to do it. I just can't do it because it's kind of, I don't know. It's something you got to practice. But I think that's enough for today. And we can go ahead and cross off learning about rhythm. Well, guys, with that, we have officially gone through the Learn Music Theory in Half an Hour by Andrew Huang and the Music Theory for Producers, This Is All You Need by Ethan Davis. So we kind of find ourselves at the end of this beginner learning music theory journey. I feel like I definitely learned a lot over these past few weeks or however long this series has been going on. And yeah, obviously there's a lot more to learn about music theory, but we have a pretty decent foundation that we can now go on to learn more about other stuff in beat making and understand the foundations enough. All right, but with that, I will just see you in the next one. Goodbye.